Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm Angela Ye, founder of Ye Ideology, talent strategies consulting firm. Thank you for joining our live stream today. Today we're coming in from, if you're joining us, we're live streaming from LinkedIn as well as YouTube. So, by the way, before I begin, I just always want to tell you, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate. Write those questions in before before we close out, because I don't stay on here very long on these topics. But today, if you haven't, I mean, I think you have heard us been talking about this for quite some time. The world of work is changing quite rapidly. It, every industry, every market, all types of different economies are changing so rapidly. We are moving into a new era of constant change. It's more rapid than ever. If you think about it, businesses used to be, this business model in the olden days was build a static business, repeat the business model again and again. And the more you're able to just repeat that business model, the more successful you are. And that can sustain a company for quite some time. But now, when so much is changing, and I would say that, the pandemic has rushed us forward to this new era, so much is changing: environmental, political, economic preferences, our sense of our awareness of who we are, what we want as consumers, as individuals. Our sense of life is evolving so rapidly. There are some that don't want that change, but there are many that are just evolving. We cannot help it. Um, but it's interesting, it's crazy, because when I talk about the space of design, strategy, and innovation, these are progressive pioneering spaces that I've specialized in for so long. In this community, you are pioneers. You are brokers of change. And I think that now that we're moving into this constant era of change, businesses need our insights more and more. But what's interesting and fascinating is this era of constant change is now rippling effect affecting every single industry and profession, and it's now affecting even the design industry. For those of you who, if you haven't followed and seen this article, let me just go ahead and share this. My dear friend, so my dear friend Robert Fabricant and Cliff Kwong, I don't know if you ever read their book. It's a heavy read. It's if you ever wanted to understand how to evolve your business beyond the aesthetic sensibility, it's a great sweet comment from Robert. Um, if you wanted to understand the evolution of design, strategy, innovation, how it brings value to businesses, you want to check out his book, User Friendly, how the hidden rules of design are changing the way we live, work, and play. But there are, businesses that have adopted these concepts. And there's still so many that are still trying to figure it out. But, while that's the case, Robert, if you guys haven't seen, if you're in this industry and you're, clued in on articles, there's a great article that Robert wrote. This is just chapter one of a two-part series. And he talks about how the world of design leadership is changing. I mean, if you haven't heard what's going on, J&J has laid off, lots of major corporations have laid off entire design teams, IDEO, Expedia. They go on to talking about how these different categories, what's changing about it, right? Corporate downsizing is happening. Of course, I think historically, questions about how is this affecting us? I think that design overall, I'm just going to summarize for you this article, but if anybody wants to read it, my team and I will share this in the comments down below. Okay. So again, any questions that you might have, share it here. I've been so busy, actually. This was actually out 2 months ago. And my team and one of some of our clients are saying, oh my God, you got to take a look at this article. I mean, it's fascinating. In here, people are already referencing this, in his post. If you look up Robert's LinkedIn profile, we'll share that as well. There's a lot of 131 comments about design leadership. Um, yes, every strata of our industry is even being affected, whether there's debates about whether it's AI, but I also see that we're at this inflection point where, finally businesses, I remember years ago decades ago, when we were saying one day businesses in every sector, every industry would see the value of design. And it's come to pass. Not every company, not every company in every industry, but the leaders have invested in it and saw a benefit from it. And yet this is still changing and still evolving. We're seeing that companies are still letting go of design strategy and innovation. I think the traditional notion is that design is still superfluous. Is it creative? Is it after the fact of building a business? When in so many ways, our expertise in this space, it's far beyond that, right? Far beyond the superfluous aftermath thought. I mean, and when you've seen businesses that have built out their business with the foresight and the research and the clarity that design, strategy, innovation, user experience, all of this service design ops, when they're able to be a lot more mindful, they build a better business. But it's interesting that this article goes into talking about how design leadership is changing. It's changing because I think the corporations, certainly while the economy is good now, there may be something that they're preparing for, right? And buckling, battening down the hatches and getting ready for something. But maybe there's a notion that there's enough data points that they've gathered that they can weather out without this, all this future planning to just move through this. But either way, I think design leadership, in the work that I do as a talent strategist and as a career strategist, I've worked with people and professionals at all levels of their career. If you haven't heard me talk about this, I look at the bell curve of someone's career path. I've worked with a lot of people from the midway point to the culmination of their career, the top last quarter. How do you extend this higher, and how do you extend this longer so that you don't round out as early, right? Because if you love what you've done, for anyone who's listening, if you have tasted what it feels like to make an impact, that just feels so good. That intrinsic value of bringing value and impact to others, being seen for it and reaping that reward back, and then continuing that process, the iteration of that cycle, that method of delivering value at the highest art form. This is about your highest art form of finding your purpose, right? And how every single time, if you're really that self-aware, it's going to continue and evolve each time. Because oftentimes what you've done it once, you kind of want to evolve it to the next level. What is the next iteration of that? And while we've worked with people at all levels in their career, from midpoint to management to peak of their career, for those that are at the top wondering, how far can I extend this and continue to play? I think that what's happening across the board for our industry, in fact, even before this article and what's this trend that's been happening, I think what's affected this industry overall for decades and throughout the life of this industry, is that we bring so much capability to the table. It's kind of hard to describe what design, strategy, and innovation can bring to a business because it's so multifaceted. It's so all-encompassing. It's kind of hard to say this dices and slices and toasts your bread and picks out your favorite movie channels all at the same time. So, and it is, I think that's too broad. And I actually wrote an article for Design Museum Everywhere once about how our customers want so much specificity about what it is you do. And is it the widget that they build? Is it in the market that they're in? Is it how many years doing what they do, right? But all of you, if you're brokers of change, it's not just about knowledge in their space, is it? No, it's not. It's about evolving your gift and the way you see problems. And it's a different framework. It's a different language. It's a different conversation. So for years, just to round out, I mean, for years we've been working with leaders at that top peak. So many that, in fact, have had endless opportunities still, where even with those endless opportunities, and they've dabbled in trying some of these leadership opportunities after a course of them realizing I'm bringing impact, but is that really still bringing impact back to me? You know? So this is the work that we've done where we're helping people unpack that, right? Am I doing work? The Venn diagram of, in the end, a lot of leaders grapple with this passion of mine has become such a profession that I don't have the passion anymore. And how do I go and find that passion again? So the dream, all of us in this sector, if you're here and you're listening and you've been following these conversations, our goal here is higher than what most people in the world would ever dare to achieve, right? Our convictions here are even higher because we've tasted what it's like to build a career, to build an expertise, a job, an expertise, a career out of our passions, right? That Venn diagram, that perfect niche where you've crossed that boundary and you're doing something beautiful that sustains your life, a job. I mean, most people in the world out there, it's a 9 to 5 job. And for many in the design space, finding that moment where that overlap of your passion of what you do and building it as a profession, that's intermittent. It doesn't happen all the time. It's a constant iteration. I call it diamonding, not just double diamond, but constant. Every time you're landing in a new opportunity, whether it's in-house, entrepreneur, running your own consultancy, it's a constant like, how am I going to find that sweet spot again? Does that make sense? By the way, feel free. Oh, someone did ask a question. And this is a DM. So again, if anybody has any questions, if I'm saying anything that makes sense to you, let me know. Or if you have a question that's, of any kind, let me know. What's the question? As a design leader, how can I adapt to the rapid changes in the workplace and still maintain my passion, strike a balance for the hands-on work I love to do? It's really funny because you know that when we talk to HR and hiring teams, when they're looking for this kind of leadership, they often say, we're looking for a unicorn. We're looking for someone who is high level leadership, but yet still hands on, right? And they know for them that Venn diagram, the sweet spot for someone who's still leadership, oversight, strategic, and yet to some degree can come down. We call it combing because it's not often one T shape, but there's certain areas that are relevant, right? It's funny because in that MBA business world, that's a rarity because people, as they evolve in their career, they oftentimes let go to some degree, most of us, in fact, let go of some aspect of that hands-on component. But the space of design, strategy, innovation, the pioneers, all of you in this space, you change agents, you all love that hands-on work too, don't you? It's an interesting thing you have to grapple with, actually. So to the question of, as a design leader, how can I adapt to the rapid changes in the workplace and still maintain my passion, strike a balance for the hands-on work I love to do? It's a two-part question to me. There is what's externally changing. And then there's kind of, well, in one respect, there's the push and pull of what does the world want? And then there's the push and pull of what do I still want? And by the way, while there are rapid changes externally, what I find is most of us, if you are so self-aware, self-cognizant of your work, your skills, learning new things, the more rapid you are mentally evolving, your sense of abilities is evolving, chances are you're actually evolving faster than you even realize. And to me, that's the first disconnect internally, to say, do I even know how I'm evolving? What is my sense of what I'm doing? Because to be honest, when I meet most people, and even at that leadership level, particularly more so actually sometimes, because at that leadership level, you've accomplished and amassed such a wide array of capabilities, that is becoming too much of a generalist in some sense. That the world is facing so many design leaders, excuse me, that it's all blurring. Like, you really want to understand first and foremost for yourself, where do you want to take this craft that you've taken decades to cultivate to this point? And there's a push and pull between what does the world want and what do you want to make of this? And I think that that's the first push and pull that actually, particularly also for those that are so good at meeting the needs of the world, it's actually really, really hard for people to stop and give themselves a moment. For all of you, if you are highly successful, I'm going to talk to this one sector of those that are leaders. I mean, let's talk about this topic, right? If you have been leading, if you've succeedingly stayed in building a career out of your passions and led so high up, there's so much pulling on you. And there's so many aspects to what you bring to the table. Before, at that point, people tend to think that, let's just say chief innovation officer, since this is the topic at hand, that they're all the same, that all of these opportunities are just, chief innovation officer roles and they're cookie cutter. Not, obviously different industries, different sectors, different challenges, but even beyond that, there's so much nuance to understanding which of these opportunities is truly going to, beyond serving the need, what's going to personally fuel you. To me, it's a constant dialogue and a conversation. To me, to that question for this person is, I think for all of us on that rat race, on that hamster wheel, when you're so good at delivering and giving, and this is a certain type of giver, you actually have to stop, that hammer. What's your favorite hammer of giving and delivering and doing, and stop and get off that hamster wheel to just take time out. I mean, I've seen people take sabbaticals. I've seen people even just leave the industry to try something different. And yet still, many of them still going, even after the sabbatical, even doing soul searching work, not fully clear on where they want to take it. You want to really give yourself space to look at your skills, to look at your history, to look at the journey that you've been on, and the flavor of the way you've brought impact. So to me, at this point, you want to know more, what makes you so unique and singular, so that you understand which of these opportunities are right for you and how to approach it differently based on who you are, by the way. I don't know if that makes sense for anyone. So anyway, it does mean, look, I do think that as an industry, as a profession, there are certain archetypes for individuals that come into this space. We love solving problems, but you have to understand first what it is, not just solving what the world needs. You want to sit down and have a moment to understand your number one stakeholder, and that's you, right? You want to understand what will you resonate with, and how is it that you deliver it different than anyone else. And that's how you're going to understand where those opportunities are, regardless of whatever happens in that world externally. So I have to say that is the science and the method and the cycle that we bring people through in our program Thrive by Design, our masterclass program. And I mean, this is not, people have bastardized the term masterclass. I mean, for us, this is deep work that people get to steep in and finally have a moment to give themselves grace and compassion for like look at how far I've come. Look at all that I've accomplished and the impact that I've given. So many of you have literally, and if we're talking about this level of how far someone's come in their career, high up, right? To really the very few have hit that strata that you have if you've done this work and reached that high point of leadership. Forget even the senior designer ceiling. You've moved past management and leadership and evolved it to a certain point. But what's next? Even beyond that, you've pushed it. What's even next? Right? So there's so much great work that we've done at this level. And it is fighting the urge to just give. Even at this level, it's a constant battle with even one of the exercises and frameworks that we walk people through in the last 2 weeks. What do we listen for? We listen for what are our tendencies, right? What's the hammer that we instinctually want to pick up and just immediately go at it and solve the problem, right? Not everything is a nail. And when you are able to watch your own behavior and watch yourself move through change, it's you develop a more powerful ability to implement change. Okay. I mean, I think I'm going to stop there. There's so much I could break into. But I would say that the people that we work with, when it comes to leadership, the hardest part is in a lot of corporations, they do feel like let me just get into the employer side. There's running your own consultancy. That's a whole direction and many challenges there. How do you evolve it to the next level? We'll talk about that next time. But entrepreneur, so many of you are so amazing at leading companies. And do you give up because you're just not being seen? Or is it about looking at it and seeing it from a different perspective? Because there's still so many companies, many, that need your expertise. But here's the pattern. Less and less of them are going to know how to recognize you the further up you go, the more extensive that expertise, right? And you more so than ever want to own that disconnect, that exchange, and that engagement. You want to own how to be seen and how to qualify the opportunities, right? I mean, I still meet people who jump into these situations. And then so now the second half of our program is qualifying opportunities beyond the first fact of realizing how far can you take it, that there's so much more still in you, which so many of you still have. But then it's beyond that point. It's like, then how do you qualify those opportunities and how do you engage to ensure that once down to the signing, that these opportunities that you find, that you hold on to this in such a way that it really is best for you, okay, for you to thrive in, so that you understand the difference between thriving and an opportunity that's not going to take you anywhere, or at worst, toxic. I mean, all it takes is honestly, all it can take is one clause, one factor, one nuance of not knowing how to hold on to and stand in your power, stand in your unique ability, claiming what that's worth, what it requires, right? I mean, not only are we helping people reach double steps, triple steps higher, that next phase in their career, but we're even having, as a result, people opening up into pushing their capabilities, their gift, really pushing it to that next level that they've always wanted to. And while this is not the premise of our program, but as a result, people leading and benchmarked for higher level, broader scale impact. And literally, as a result, the employers and the clients that they're working with are literally coming back to them saying, we know that this is worth twice as much, 3 times, 4 times as much, because of what the impact that we know that you deliver. All right. We've had people, design leadership for all of you. I don't know where you are comp wise. I want to really talk about this. You are all, most of you, delivering insane, outsized impact, We're talking not just millions, multiple millions, but even billions of dollars of impact for the companies that you leave behind. You touch that with your Midas touch for a millisecond, meaning a year or three, versus other roles that are C-suite that are, the level of impact is different, and takes longer. And your level of impact is so immediate. Are you owning and holding on to that level of impact? And in this space of design, strategy, innovation, the most progressive spaces, compensation I've seen had hovered around 200 to 300s for many, many years. And many of you probably still benchmarked around that point. And here's the thing, you should be, and we're helping people realize how to reach that point of 500, 800, if that's what you want. If that is the impact, if that's just a representation of fraction, 1% fraction of the level of impact that you're delivering. All right. Anyway, I mean, with a comp, it's still back down to, in this space, it's still about the work that you love to do, right? Is this still work you love to do, right? Do you still wake up in the middle of the night or on weekends and think about this work, right? This is different than what most people live for. This is different than what most people think is attainable. If you've tasted it and you are still hungry and wondering, do I have still what it takes? Join us, work with me. I would love to show you the rest of what you're capable of, the next level of what you're capable of, because it's so beautiful for you to realize your full capacity. Don't go asking that first of someone else. Find that answer within yourself first, because it's got to stem from you. If you truly want to be a progressive change agent, leader, pioneer, you must understand for yourself first, what is it that you yourself offer? Okay? Regardless of what else is happening out there, you want to understand where, to that question, as a design leader, how can I adapt to the rapid changes in the workplace? It stems from still maintaining and understanding a deep, deep understanding of your passions, and the passion for, and I'll tell you, most of you, in some respects, still love that hands-on work. There's an exercise for that. How do we make sure that that doesn't hold you back in your career? Okay, so that it sits there in the right perspective. Okay, we are about to, that's about it. I think I've rambled way too long. I'm so sorry. My team's like, oh no, stop. Yeah, we are going to be offering a mindset workshop around career, our mindsets around our gifts, our skills, our expertise, our profession, our career as a whole. How do you understand how it affects your thinking? And this is one of the very first foundational steps that we run our clients through. We teach to see, how much are you self-aware of your mindset? Even if you are the most confident, and we all should be at this point, right? Confident of what you deliver. Fixed and limiting beliefs still hit us in different ways, Are we cognizant of that when it happens? Okay? Because no matter how far you've taken your career and your life, these lessons will still happen. This is what life is about. It doesn't end. This is the piece that is iterative and beautiful if you understand the cycle. Okay, enjoy, everyone. Enjoy the journey. Just know, while there are, back to that article that Robert Fabricant had written. By the way, that's part one. There's part two coming as well. Also check out his book. It's a bit of a heavy, deep read. If any company wants to understand, or anyone leading design, leadership, strategy, innovation, design thinking within a corporation, you want to read this book. And we will put the LinkedIn post in the chat, as well as the article link. And, follow us. If what we're talking about makes sense for you, please like, share. We are often an unsung community that cares more than most. This is like the 20% that cares, the 80%. So I hope that we change that. And we're doing this with all of you one by one. And now we're moving into teaching you all in mass. So I hope that this is bringing value. All right. Have a great day. I hope you step outside. I am. It's gorgeous out here in New York. Sunny, beautiful. All right. Bye, everyone.